Okay.
Hey guys, Ben Labadie here, and I am with a not so internet friendly Dr. Henry Svec. You're having some issues. There's a power outage out there. Is that correct? So
Well, the
that's why
power,
you're
yeah,
blurry.
the power went out a little bit for about, I don't know, half an hour or so, and then the internet just didn't come on. So I don't know if it's the system that's providing it to us or what. So now I'm using my iPhone hot thing, whatever you call it.
Okay. So, hey guys, good to see you. And again, we are, brought to you by Konstantinos Pizza and Wings on Lacroix Street here in Chatham. If you guys want to win pizza, and a pound of wings, all you have to do is comment sometime during this live broadcast that we're doing right now, and you can win. People are already saying yes. But we're also, just for fun, we decided that we're going to announce the winner in the next week's broadcast. So today we're going to broadcast who won last week. Okay, and last week's winner was Kathy Robert. So that was last week's winner. So she wins a large pizza from Konstantinos Pizza and Wings and a pound of wings. So congrats, Kathy. You did really well.
Congrats.
Okay, so we got a lot to cover here, Henry.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit, it is spotty. So everybody knows that you did have a power outage, and we're just trying to work through it and see how it goes. If it gets too blurry, maybe we'll just do it again tomorrow. But your sound is good. How are
Okay,
you
good.
doing?
Well,
How are you doing?
I'm good till I read that 15-page military report on our nursing home problem. Did you read that report, Ben, today?
I did not read the report. Can you give us a rundown?
No, it's hard to read. It's just not a good. It's the problems they found in the nursing homes. They actually filed this report and they sent it to the government today. Mr. Ford announced it. Tomorrow, apparently, they're going to announce it in Quebec. All they found, and it's horrific. And I just you don't want when you read it, you just don't have the kids around and don't read it out loud. It's not good.
All right.
The police are
So,
investigating. There's issues of abuse, elder abuse. There's reusing of syringes. People were. It's just you can't really believe it's Canada when you read it.
yeah, and not many people think that's Canada. That is a country that we're not familiar with, but it's happening here.
I know, and you don't want to say a problem in all of these places, but when you read it and you see what's happening there, you just say to yourself, it's just so difficult. Anyway, that you asked me that was a hard one to read because sometimes the value, what the value and how you help the most in need in your community or in your country tells you about the quality of your country. And these people are helpless. They have no one, helping them apparently. And what the military, and it took the military, this was not news. This has been around for years, but it took a military courage to write this report to now supposedly push action. I should say one thing because I've been ripping them on this show. I was very proud of the way the premier said it's my problem. I have to own this and I have to fix it. So as we talked about leadership, regardless of what you think, at least he stepped up and said, let's see what action he takes. But at least he said it's my fault.
Right. And that's
Which
good. That's good.
it's a start, right?
All right. Hey, Becky, Nicole. Hey, you like pizza? Congratulations, Kathy. Kathy did win. Okay. My daughter is 14, having a really hard time not being at school, seeing her friends. I can't get her to do schoolwork. What can I do to help her?
Well, Crystal, your 14-year-old daughter, what was she like? Can I ask a couple questions, Ben? Because that'll help us with the answer.
Go
What was
for
she
it.
like before all this happened? Because being 14 by definition means you're going to be oppositional and you're not going to follow rules. And for a lot of us at 14. Now, was your daughter normally more compliant, or is this sort of just another thing that she's able to use? The other thing is, I would try to focus on things before you give us that answer. I would try to focus on things she can do. And I wouldn't be, unless there's pressure from the school, and perhaps someone can educate me if there is, I would focus on her feeling accomplished in other ways. Because self-esteem is the most important thing to preserve when children feel like they're failing and even though she's 14, she's still a child, in my opinion, even though the world says 14 is old enough to do many things. I think they're still children. So if you can find ways to build their self-esteem, if the homework is mandatory and you have to get certain assignments done, is that just about going to high school, Ben, at 14 or in grade 9? I'm not sure.
I think that would be grade 9. That's high school. Yep.
Well, so you're talking about completing credits, and so there you're talking about, mom's in charge, she's in charge. So she has to understand that you're going to demand that it get done, or certain things around the house won't happen, like logical consequences. Her job is to go to school, do the best she can, and help a bit at some other task around the house. That's pretty much her job. And so she has to fulfill that obligation.
Okay.
That's not much help, but that's kind of like, I just think parents have an opportunity now to say, look, I'm in charge, you're going to do this. And then, well, what if she doesn't? Well, what systems are in place? Do you have a system today to deal with discipline, non-compliance? How do you normally handle that? If you give us more information, we might be able to help.
Yeah. And what about the having a really hard time not being at school, seeing her friends? Does that have anything?
I'm hearing this, you know what? I'm hearing this more and more and more. And that's why you start with a basis of self-esteem building before you get too strong on getting the homework done. We're talking credits, but I'm not sure if you're requiring work to be finished so she can get her credits and go on to grade 10 in the fall. But if it's not that, I would be more focused on her self-esteem and trying to find ways for her to interact with her friends, via the internet, which she's probably doing. So, or even having balcony visits. I know we do it with seniors. I don't know. Do young people do balcony visits with their parents, or what do you do?
I have no clue what everybody's doing something different. I believe people are probably doing more visiting than anything, more and more now. I don't know.
Children and adults are more and more valuing that opportunity to be with people. And so I think we have to realize that, no disrespect, but unless it's credits, I would put more emphasis on trying to have her feel better and happier than worrying too much about school and creating that stress in her life. That kind of goes against with a lot of what I say, unless it's a credit issue where you need to do that credit work to get that grade. But I'd be surprised if that's really what we're talking about.
Okay.
The self-esteem and the mental health is one of the most important things right now, I think, for our children and adults.
Any quick tips that one can do to boost self-esteem?
Yeah, self-esteem is about real, genuine feedback in a positive way. So you have to realize the unconditional love is where you start. So you love your child regardless. You may not like some of their behavior, but you love them and you're with them regardless of what they do. So that's where you start. And that 30-minute unconditional love exercise I talk a lot about, it's all over the internet and it's free. And you basically, if we have time, I'll explain it. But it's a 30-minute time you spend with your child. Crystal's given us more information.
Yeah, all her marks were in the 90s. She is structured, has to have structure, which I tried, but hockey got canceled early. Her baseball is canceled. She is going crazy. Yes, the school is pushing.
Okay, well, she's an athlete and she's getting 90s. You know what, Crystal? I wouldn't worry about it. I'd focus more on activities to make her feel better. I would give her some obligations academically, but I wouldn't make that the focus of what you're doing, because she sounds like she's probably self-driven. And children who are self-driven are probably more critical on themselves than any adult could ever be. So providing her with positive outcomes and, in focusing on, did she do her best as opposed to grades? But if she's already doing 90s and doing well in school, to me, that wouldn't be a major issue. I would focus on her mental health and trying to keep her happy and focused and giving her tasks she can achieve and accomplish around the house. I don't know where you're at with, yard maintenance or cooking or other activities or repairs or whatever, but give her some activities to do around the house, reward her for those and have her part of the team if you're not already doing that.
Awesome. Let's go here. How is a good transition to being off of work for 60 plus days to jumping back into the workforce when the government allows you to work again? That's going to be a big change for people, going from working to nothing, not just for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, months, 60 days.
Well, Heather, you ask a great question, because one of the things we know when going back to work is it has to, just like when you ease off, the healthiest thing would have been to ease off when you get off and ease back when you get back. So I'm not sure how much flexibility you have in the workplace, but if I had a choice to create that for you, it would be, you may go in one day for 4 hours. The next day you may not go in. The next day you may go in for 8 hours, and gradually you build up over the course of 2 weeks to being back full time. That is the best way to ease, because just think about the routine of getting up, getting ready for work if you have to go out to work, and all those stresses. So there's no way to artificially build up your stamina for that. I mean, we all do it when we have to. We just get called and we have to go, and we don't have that opportunity. So if, in an ideal world, you would build up to it and build back. What you can do before you go is keep your routine. Set your alarm, get up as if you're going to work, try to get some things done at those times. Sleep-wake cycle is really important. If you're used to now staying up late and getting up a bit later, that could be a problem. So try to adjust your sleep and your food and your exercise habits. And we see a lot of this in my clinical practice when people are on workers' comp and they're going back to work, how we can ease them in. But this is sort of a different situation. I think you have to know your own body and how you respond to that kind of thing. But easing in is the best way.
All right. Let's see here. Hey, Mike, how you doing? Cheryl, how are you? And all people have to do is comment to win pizza. Wings, 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 more wings. Let's see here. Tap into self-care classes, especially mental wellness. Henry, do you have any classes available on your podcast or anything that people can look at to tap into self-care classes?
The one I love because I use it is the stress vaccine. And it's a thing we created. It's free, and you get on there, and it takes you through some things, and you use it before you start to feel stress or when you start to feel stress. The best thing, it's a form of cognitive behavioral therapy. So we don't have any specific ones unless people are in our practice, but there are many. If you just Google cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT, there are many of them out there, apps and other things. And basically what it does is it helps you change the way you think about what just happened to you. So if you're walking down the street and all of a sudden a car splashes you, I'm making this up, of course, and you start to feel something. Well, what you're feeling is about what you're thinking about the car splashing you. And so if you change your thoughts, you can change your feelings. And that's kind of the focus of CBT. And it's a very effective tool to help you, sort of think through things differently and become more aware of what's making you angry, anxious when it has to do with an event. So I would look up that CBT idea to start things off.
Awesome. Touchy subject, face masks. Your opinion on people distance themselves instead of being shamed? I think people are touching the masks more than they would touch their face mask or face normally, asking for a friend. It's from Mark. I guess a lot of the real face mask controversy that I see is people shaming people for wearing them and shaming people for not wearing them.
How do you shame? Okay, can you help me understand the shame thing? What do they do to you?
Well, people will, what I see is people making fun of people that wear them being afraid. And then I see on the other end, people saying that people that are not wearing them are a danger to everybody. So they're basically extreme on the one side and extreme on the other. Most people live in a reasonable area where they, if you're like me, if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't want to, neither bother me. If I go to a restaurant and they want me to, or business and they want me to wear a mask, I'll wear a mask.
Right.
If I can go in there and not wear a mask, yeah, it doesn't bother me if anybody else does or not. It doesn't bother me. Right. But what I'm seeing, and what a lot of people are seeing, if you just open up your social media for a little bit, is just this heckle back and forth about masks. And really, it shouldn't matter. But people are shaming people for wearing them, and people are shaming people for not wearing them in a way that it's bizarre.
Well, the energy to do that is ridiculous. It's like when you have a bad haircut in grade 3 and people make fun of you. What is the point of that? If people want, like you said, if people want to wear a mask and they feel more comfortable, they should. There may be situations where we're going to be mandated to wear a mask, and that's fine. Whatever we have to do to go to a restaurant initially or get on an airplane if you want. But I just think, it's a lot of wasted negative energy. We have to respect each other for whatever reason. We don't know their story. They may have 5 pre-existing conditions and they have to get out, but they need to do everything they can. And psychologically, if you feel safer wearing a mask, wear a mask. If you feel better not wearing a mask, don't wear one. But if people want you to wear one, I think they out-Trump us who may not want to. I shouldn't use Trump, but they kind of outbeat the people who don't want to wear a mask. So you have to respect what the rules are. Just if you go to someone's house and they have certain rules, like you take your shoes off before you come into the house, and some people don't want to do that. Well, it's the person who owns the house that sets the rules.
Yeah, I think Glenda might have a good comment here. I don't think it's about masks. I think people are just frustrated. Could people just be frustrated and looking to I see people that are stressed and frustrated, and they might get a little
Yeah.
bit, bent out of shape over things that they normally wouldn't.
But how
Right?
is
They
it
get upset
helpful
at
to
things.
hurt other people when you're frustrated? I mean, I think it could be a good point that that's part of it. People are frustrated; they have less tolerance. They're itchy, as we've talked about before. But this is when you need people. You don't,
Mhm.
you don't want to push people away. And I get really discouraged by the harm that people do when they assault each other on the internet, or they they used to call it shaming. That's a horrible thought, that because you wear a mask
Mhm.
that somehow you're a bad person, or if you don't. I just think we have to get over this and get on with solving the problems. We have to
Yeah.
let's work on fixing this, and
Uh,
not turning to each other to tear
yeah.
each other
Let's
down.
let's talk about social media for a second. I see a lot of people taking breaks from social media more than they ever have, from Facebook and other Twitter. I talked to somebody yesterday. They haven't been on Facebook. They haven't been on Twitter. They haven't been on social media for the last 5 days, 6 days, and they feel much better about
Good.
not seeing this onslaught of news and fake news and opinion articles about
Mm.
what is right and what is wrong and why you're good or why you're bad. Is that a good exercise people can do? Is just take a day off?
Yeah, or
I'm on
leave your
social media
phone.
every day.
Yeah.
Is it a good idea just to take a day off?
Yeah, sometimes we do it by accident, where we forget our phone and we realize how great life is when you don't have to worry about your phone, or who's calling or who's doing what. So time away is really helpful. I mean, if you some of us have been to places where internet's not available in the country, or parts of where you go out fishing and there's no place. So it is mentally healthy to be away from all that bombardment of information that's really not helpful. And so the more of that you can do, probably the healthier you'll be.
Right. Somebody can't hear us too well. Uh, so
Can they
they
hear
said,
you? Because you're at a better feed, though, aren't you? They should be able to hear you.
I'm not sure. But they said the funny part is that so they can't comment, but they did comment. So that was kind
Oh,
of funny.
that's just that's tricky.
Um, let's see. Shoots Hoops plays catch and talking about ways to get active. Road hockey, baseball. So let's look at this. Mark says somebody came into my personal space to comment that I didn't have one on. I make a point of avoiding people. So, yeah, I do think people are gonna be a little touchy on wear one or not wear one. But if you just gotta watch out for yourself, I guess. I don't know.
Well, is there a rule now? Just clarify. Is there a rule you are required to wear it in certain situations, or is that not clear yet in Ontario?
I don't think you are forced to wear anything other than, when you enter a business that they want you to wear a face mask, like an airplane. Um, there's some stores, I guess, that are asking you to wear a mask, um, but really no law or bylaw or any indication from government to wear a mask. You know,
So it's kind of like that: no shirt, no shoes, no service sign. They just add mask, and they can make you wear it, or you can't come into their shop, I guess.
correct? Yeah. And
Okay.
some
Okay.
businesses that are doing that are offering a mask, so you can have a mask when you go in. Kind of like every business I see, you pretty much have hand sanitizer everywhere you go. Um,
Yep.
the liquor store is actually very impressive with how clean they are. They are very
Yeah.
clean. They wash everything, the whole counter before the next person.
Yeah, it would be great if they had a sign in every store that said, if you have a mask, wear it. Because I always carry one with me, but I never know if I should wear it or not. I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. So I always have it with me. And occasionally I wear it if I think I need to. But I wear it because of the other people. I don't wear it because I don't care, but I wear it for whatever makes them more relaxed. So if they had a little sign on the door, especially as we go out more and try to shop more, you know, masks required, please, or something, we'd know to wear it. And I think it would be a rule that we would all respect. But if there isn't one, then you don't know. And that's really the problem. We don't have a lot of guidelines. So we're just kind of going through this and randomly doing things, which I think we need some more clear, definitive answers to.
Now, when it comes to face masks and that big question there about people saying to other people, you have to wear one or shaming them for not wearing them, is it because we don't have any clear guidelines set from the government? Is that kind of one way that that happens?
I go to other thoughts when someone gets in someone's space and chastises them for not doing something when they're strangers. Like, who does that? I know I'm old, but my mom would swat me if I did that. Like, I don't know. What makes you think in public you go up to someone and say, I don't like the way you look today, so change it? Or, you coughed and you should be home, or whatever it is. I don't. Do you ever do that, Ben? Do you ever go up to some stranger and say, I don't like what you just did? I mean, assuming they're not hurting someone. I'm just talking.
I just kind of stay out of the way.
Yeah,
If somebody's
yeah.
doing something and it doesn't really affect me or doesn't hurt
Hurt
anybody,
anybody else? Yeah.
um, I, it's really not my business, and it's really not worth the time, right?
Yeah, and I mean, if you have an opinion, what makes you think they want to hear it?
Right. Let's see here. Amanda says every business should be all on the same page as when it comes to masks. Bring your own bags, etc. We are too overloaded every day with new information, so it would be nice to see every business having the same rules. And I think that would have to come from government if that was the case. But I think you're going to see more and more businesses will have different rules.
Do you think it's getting clearer or more confused? I try not to listen to this stuff anymore, but I seem to be getting more confused.
Uh, I feel that the messages that they put out can be confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, especially when you go back in time, 45 days ago about you don't need to wear a mask, masks are dangerous, to everybody should wear a mask. I mean, go with one thing, and just do it. It just seems everything that is put out there is taken back like 3 days later and changed.
And that's why I think people are engaging in different types of behaviors as far as testing rules and limits that some people think are rules and other people don't, because they don't know where those limits are, and there's no way to enforce a lot of them. So because there aren't, like Amanda talked about, simple, if you had some very simple, just say we all need to wear masks in different, give us the list of places and we'll wear the mask. It's okay. Just give us some guidelines, because I think there's some real mental health benefit to having some secure ways to behave and act in different situations. Those rules, because it takes the stress off.
Mm-hmm.
We know what we have to do. There's no negotiation.
I think we as individuals should have our own choice. And I believe we should have our own choice up until a point where you enter somebody else's business
Right.
or home. I believe if you want to enter that business, you should have to abide by their rules, whatever they set out, or shop somewhere else. Um, we do have to have some sort of responsibility that we take for ourselves at one point. Um,
Yeah, I agree. I think that from a mental health side, though, it's very helpful to have some clear guidelines in behavior. And we talked about 14-year-olds and children. If we don't have those guidelines, what are they supposed to do out there? So if you take your child for a walk, are they supposed to wear a mask? I don't know. Are you doing that with your kids, Ben? Do they have all masks, or what do you do with your kids?
my kids do have masks for a situation they would need masks, but they do not wear masks. Like if I were to go to a grocery store, I, I'm not. I don't tell my kids that they have to wear a mask or anything. So if we go to
Oh,
Walmart to get anything, I
yeah.
don't tell them that they have to put a mask. However, if the store required it, we have a mask for in the event that the store says you should wear a mask when you're in here for us. And then I will pull
So
the
so
masks out and we'd wear them happily.
okay. So your children have been told, like, depending on the rule of where you are, that's when you need to wear a mask.
Right. But I don't put a whole lot of fear. I try to avoid, putting them in a position of being scared of something, right? I'm
Mhm.
telling them be safe, be clean, right? Um, but being safe is being clean, and being clean is being safe. But I don't really want to get them too worked up to be scared, you know, at this point in their lives anyway.
See, it would be really important if they would provide opening for what they call that bubble, right? Where you have people that a close friend or a family that doesn't live with you that you can have and be with. That bubbling is a very important mental health thing, where people who are isolated can reach out and be with friends or family. That would go a long way to helping mental health, for people to be able to connect with other people. A very important thing, that because there are people living alone who don't have that contact. And we need to open that up in a way that's safe, but also respects the mental health need to be together with other people.
Right.
I don't know when that's going to happen, but we need that.
Yeah, definitely more confused. People are getting mixed up from rules from other countries as well, and we do get a ton of information from U.S. news agencies and that,
Mm-hmm.
where you're reading that and you're wondering if that is some sort of rule anywhere around here. So I can see where that can be a little bit confusing for people. Let's see here. What if you are asthmatic and can't wear a mask? How would that work in the store? I guess that would be one of those things.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's up. It's going to be up to the stores, I think. But again, if you had some big guidelines, especially, that would be best.
I wonder about a collective feeling of depression where we're all kind of feeling like it's not going anywhere and we're kind of losing hope. Every time you happen to watch the TV, they talk about, the second wave is coming and, blah, blah. And you just hear this all the time. You start to wonder, how long is this going to continue in this sense of lack of direction, lack of focus, and how long are we going to experience this? And I think we really need some sense of movement and a reward for this isolation, because most people are compliant. I mean, I don't know what the number is. Got to be over 95% of people are doing as we're told to do.
Yeah, well, it's a large majority of people that are abiding by the rules. And really, when you go out, it's hard to violate the rules because everybody's watching and you don't want to be that person, right? And people, when you're walking on the street or walking on the sidewalk, everybody's getting out of happily, by the way, getting, creating space. So if you see people walking, young or old, they're happily moving to the side and you're moving to the other side to create a space, and you both know what's going on. You're on the same page. So a lot of people are on the same page, and they are, as Sue said, is being respectful of other people. I do like her comment here. I'm using common sense when I'm out and being respectful of the store rules where I shop. I think that's the best thing you can do. That should be the rule right there, what Sue just said.
And there is a sense of hope. I heard for the first time today a doctor, physician who's always being asked to comment on CBC say he doesn't understand why communities like ours can't have different levels of opening based on our work and our response to COVID, where we don't have a significant problem here. Why can't we move into, say, the bubble idea where you can be with the family or two that you have a, they're like you. We follow the rules. We're not going to a beach or park in Toronto. And the people in Toronto, if they want to continue that, they should have their level, whatever. But for all of us to be at the same place, even though we're not all working as hard, doesn't make a lot of sense to even now some of the people that before would have said that that's not a good idea. So I see that starting to change. There's some hope there that if we, it's time to reward people for doing the right things.
Here we go. I hate everyone trying to shove their beliefs down your throat. And I see a lot of that. I mean, that's life for the last many years, especially with politics and social media, of everybody trying to shove their opinion down everybody else's throat. So
I wonder about craving a simpler life, Ben. Just craving not having, like, I was thinking the other day, what if you only got the news once a week in a newspaper, like the old days? Like you wouldn't be focused on all this stuff.
Right. And a lot of the stuff, I got to say, is not news. It's more of an angle that somebody takes something from, a politician and goes their own way. And really, it's for news, actual news, I don't see much of it. I really don't. We actually get the news directly from many of the politicians. And the articles are just that you read and that are shared are really just somebody's opinion. Well,
so how does a 14-year-old that has access to the internet understand any of this? Like, because we don't understand it with all that bombarded different information.
Yeah, I really have no clue how that works.
Well, the answer would be try. I mean, I don't know if parents. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, man.
But I really don't see the way the algorithms work for social media. I really don't think they get hit with all the stuff that we get in our age bracket by the algorithm. So they'll be hit with a different bubble of information than we see. We see stuff, that we kind of searched for, and whatever age bracket you're in, you might be looking for news, and other stuff like that that you've read will pop up for you, right? So that you have other stuff that you kind of like already.
How successful are you in stopping your kids from accessing? Like, do you limit their time on the internet, or how do you police it, patrol it, try to not let them get exposed to too much of this stuff? What do you do?
I'm probably the worst person for that. I check their, messages the odd time to kind of make sure that no other people are trying to
Right.
bully or, bad people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I really don't police what they see, on there. I, try to teach them one way or the other to, get rid of crap, right? The best I can. But really, I don't police it too much.
Are the filters
And,
effective? I know there's parental filters you can put on all these systems.
yeah,
Do they work, or do kids get around that?
I believe my kids would get around it if they really, really wanted to. So I really don't put too many filters on anything. You know, so I just kind of trust their judgment. I give them a little way to go, and I'm not too concerned. There doesn't seem anything that's scaring me that they would see. There's bad stuff on the internet. There's bad stuff on YouTube. There's coarse language everywhere. And if you listen to any rap music, which my son likes rap music, it's just not good. Nothing that I've heard
Yeah.
is good or healthy.
I think boundaries are important. I think as adults we have these conversations, but I think around your children you want to talk about, oh, it's going to be fine. We're going to get through this. It's great. There's all these great things that are going to happen. I mean, that would be kind of the posture I would recommend. I wonder how parents feel about that. Keeping your own thoughts as we are as adults here talking. But when you're with your kids, it's, yeah, we're shut down, but let's make it great. We'll do this. We're going to, I did a Hank's cooking episode the other day. I haven't put it up yet, where I cooked some potato pancakes. And I made these potato pancakes with rhubarb and applesauce and some sour cream stuff. And I was going to throw it. I haven't put it up yet, but just take some bad situation and say, okay, let's make some potato pancakes or something. Just focus on the positive. And when it gets to the negative, keep it with adults. I wonder how hard it is with boundaries in today's age of technology, where you're trying to protect your children, but they can just turn around and hit a few buttons and get a different answer or get more information that could cause them more stress.
Yeah, they have access to so much, and I try to convince my kids that, or indicate that the positives that you can take out of this, the time with family, the time to relax, the time to not be forced to go to school and do all these things, and run around outside. I think those are all opportunities. That I'm more of a positive person, so I spin it the way I want to spin it, which is something hopefully good. Let's see here. Go ahead.
I was just going to comment. No, go ahead with the Erio comment. I love that comment.
Yeah. Fear keeps people alive. It's why we double check the ladder to the roof. Scared is different.
Because we at the beginning were told if we don't stay home, we're all going to probably get sick and die. Like, it was a very serious issue. And now we know some different things about it. But depending on who you are, that still may be the case. I guess scared probably comes with lack of information, because if we can't define the risk, then we're sort of generally afraid of things we maybe don't need to be afraid of. And that's part of the frustration I think people are feeling. They're saying, well, if we're not supposed to socially be together, how do you explain all those people who are together? And if getting together is bad, why are so many places where they're together have not more COVID rates? How do you explain that one, Ben, where some of these groups who are getting together have higher rates and others don't? And then they don't talk about hospitalization rates we've talked about. Some have more identified rates. Like they said today, Ontario rate went down, but they also tested fewer people. So,
and I noticed locally that they're now just testing anybody that wants to come in and get tested. You don't need a doctor refer you. It's almost like they're trying to encourage more people to just use the facility of testing that they have.
But someone said, you can be tested today and I'm negative, but tomorrow I could be positive. So right now it might help me, but it doesn't really help me tomorrow. It just tells me today I didn't have COVID.
But does that really help anybody? Like, if you're not feeling symptoms and abiding by all the rules, right? If you're doing all the rules and that, knowing and not knowing if you have symptoms or not doesn't really matter.
Well, there's a bit of a problem because if you volunteer to be tested and you're positive, you're now 14 days for sure isolated. Plus, if you have an app, anybody that knows you that you may have connected to at a grocery store or something, they're going to all be isolated. And so if they can identify all the people you connected with and say, you're now all isolated, I mean, you're a popular guy, Ben. If you tested positive, there might be 500 people that can't leave their house for 14 days. They're not going to like you very much. So there's all these issues about testing that people haven't thought through. It's very important, I think, to test vulnerable folks if they're not well and to make sure and that kind of thing. But I think it's gotten to be I'm confused on the science. Like you said, how does it help? You'd have to test every day before you left your house to go to work if it was an issue of that is going to impact your ability to work. But testing yourself once a week is probably, I mean, I was good on Monday, but maybe Tuesday I was not good. How do you know? I don't know.
Let's see here. Thoughts on not being able to see family, but having yard sales. I miss mine. That is a source of depression for me. That's an interesting one. You can't go see your family, but you can go to yard sales. So if your family had
you
yard
can have
sales,
you can have a yard sale?
You can have yard sales. Absolutely.
In our community, you can have a yard sale?
Absolutely.
Can you explain that one to me, Ben? Please, while I get a drink.
I myself don't get how, I believe when I read an article, I believe it was a Chatham Daily News article, that it was really more, how would you ever police garage sales, right? How many people would it take to police garage sales on a Saturday? When 30 different garage sales are going on, what do you do, right? So I think that's the toughest part. But really, you have people, anytime you have a garage sale, I've watched garage sailers, right? I've been a garage sailor, on a Saturday morning, and it's like a rush, and you're trying to get to places before other people. They're there, you're there.
Well, let's compare a garage sale to the LCBO cleaning the counter process. How do you keep a garage sale if you believe it's helpful to be hygienic as they are at LCBOs and grocery stores and stuff? How do you do that at a garage sale? But hang on. You really, you could open up your garage tomorrow and have a garage sale, but you can't go see your folks.
You can open up and have a garage sale, but you can't go see.
So why don't you just open your garage door and have everybody over?
Yeah.
I don't know. Put a few old junks out there and say, I'm having a garage sale, Ben's garage sale, and you have all your family and friends over. Is that crazy? No, that's not okay. You can't do that.
No, it is a little bit crazy, but it is allowed.
So how do you socially distance? I got to ask you, because I've driven by them because I've got so much junk. I never want to buy any junk. But if you're at a garage sale, how do you socially distance? Do the people have to spread it out over the lawn? Do they have standards, or is it just like the old style garage sales?
I think it would be like the old style garage, like the way I kind of vision it in my head is the old style way, but people just social distancing while they're looking at stuff. I believe it can be done. I believe it can be done safely. I believe you can do, and with people the way they act out in public now, they naturally social distance. They're not getting near other people. So I believe it can be done safely, and I'm okay with it. But it is bizarre when that's okay, but visiting your family is not okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, you could have a family barbecue and socially distance.
I see people visiting each other from the driveways and stuff like that, or walking by and communicating, and they're all seeming to fall in line of the rules. So I believe you can visit. I believe you can do pretty much everything there is to do and do it safely. I believe you can go back to normal and do it safely. That's my opinion. I don't know if it can be done.
Respect. Some people talk about the respecting people's right to choose and do the right thing. Most people will do the right thing, but they still. I mean, if you're depressed because you can't see family, my opinion is you need to go see family somehow. You have to find a way, and if Skype isn't working, isn't good enough, then you need to find a way to meet your family, but keep them safe.
Mm-hmm.
There's some priorities we have to set above what people are talking about, particularly if you know the history of the people you're visiting. I mean, other than the grocery store, I mean, I'm like you. I've been self-isolated for 3 months. The farm, the grocery store. That's it. There's no.
But I do like this comment. We really need to be respectful and try not to judge others. Just be kind. Smile if you have no mask. but social distancing, I think you have to do the social distancing, no matter what. I think
So
that's going
wouldn't
to
it be
go on for a
something
while.
with all this science if a mask, hand sanitizer, and don't shake hands was all we needed?
Go back to normal tomorrow, right?
I don't know. I wonder, has anyone looked at that? I haven't read anything on that. Just a very common sense kind of approach.
Well,
If you're
I tell
sick,
you what,
stay home.
I've read all these things. If the science says no mask, the science says mask. I remember I took a picture of myself wearing a mask. I went and got a new mask, and it was neat. And I got my girlfriend, she's a nurse. I got her that, the nurse hat to keep her hair in and safe. And I got her a couple
Oh,
hats
okay.
from
Yep.
somebody. And they have the buttons on the side of
Mm-hmm.
the hat where the strings to your mask go so they don't wreck your ears. So
Oh,
she
okay. Yeah.
and the woman that
Very
was
cool.
selling those, I thought it was cool. I guess it was a normal thing.
Yeah.
All of them already know, but I thought it was new to me.
Oh,
I thought that was neat.
yeah.
But I got a mask and I was just ripped apart on how masks don't work and they could be unsafe and the science says unsafe. I was like, to me, it's going to be hard to convince me that having another layer in front of me doesn't do anything, right?
Right.
So it's hard to
Well, let's be
convince me of.
honest. If you were running the city of Toronto, I would say if you go out in public, you got to wear a mask. That's it. I mean, just make a buy. Everybody's got to wear a mask. It's over. Just wear a mask in Toronto because you people don't get it. So just wear a mask. Like
Yeah,
if you can't socially distance, wear a mask.
yeah. Let's
By
see
the way, in
here.
the Czech Republic, when this all started, they made everybody wear masks, and they had one of the lowest rates. And they're not exactly the most, right now technologically, they don't have as much science and medicine as we do, but they wore the masks, and apparently that was very helpful.
Right. Happiness is a choice. Is that correct?
That's a tough question because there's so many parts to mental health that I think that's a hard one. I don't agree with that one. Sorry. I mean, what you do every day, if you're able, is a choice. But there are many of our brothers and sisters and friends who don't have that same. We talk about. Here's one that I use a lot. So if I'm feeling down, or if I want my brain to be sharp, I can do 20 minutes or 30 minutes on a treadmill, and I'm better. But it takes energy to do that exercise. So sometimes we see people who aren't happy, and we say, well, if they would just do more. But it's excruciatingly painful sometimes to get out of bed when you're depressed. In fact, it's difficult because when you leave wherever you may be to go out and interact, it's a whole different situation. So there are many levels to mental health that many of us don't understand. I don't understand a lot of it either, but there are many situations and conditions that people really cannot change without some serious assistance. And we need to respect that the people who are around us who may not be happy right now may not have that energy. So we need to work with them and help them, whether you're a friend, a neighbor, a family member, a colleague, or a professional. And that's why it's really important to listen and not put our own feelings where we would say, well, if I could just say, well, just go run on the treadmill because that's what I do. Well, that doesn't make any sense for some people because it takes energy to get on a treadmill. It takes energy to leave the house. It takes energy. And the other issue we have is called pleasant effects. Can I talk about pleasant effects for a minute? One of the best ways to handle depression, by the way, is to have more fun. And back in the 70s, what they did is when you were hospitalized sometimes for depression, they would give you a pleasant effect schedule. So from the time you got up till the time you went to bed, you were doing fun things. You start off with the Three Stooges, and then you went and did this and you did that. And within 6 weeks, a lot of the depression lifted. Now, if we just take the theory of pleasant effects and think about what's happening now, many people are isolated in their homes and they're not having a lot of fun. So it's not surprised that people are down or depressed or anxious because they don't have fun things to do. And that's why you see people reaching out. And I think some places they bang the things at 7:00 at night, or they have block parties where I saw one where they had sort of like a street party, but everybody was in their driveway. They weren't interacting and they weren't sharing food, but they were sort of out there on the street. So everybody's trying to do things to make it better and happier. And that's what we need to focus on in our homes too. How can we have more fun? Having fun is a good thing right now, finding ways to do that and things to look forward to. That's why I kept saying we have to plan a party. Just the planning part when this is over would be great for our mental health. That would be fun.
I think that would be good. If I'm going to die, I don't want to know. I want to go fishing the day of. Plus, I don't want to be treated like a leper. Life is for living. Yeah,
Mark,
if you get to go ahead.
Rondo Bay, I was out. I told, Rondo Bay, I was out very early the other morning, very early, and it was so beautiful. We have some of the most beautiful spots on the planet. And I was out there with one other guy in a boat somewhere, and that was it. And I was fly fishing for pike. It was an amazing couple hours where I went back to work. We're very lucky in this community.
I journal every night. That helps me cope with crap. Is journaling good? Is documenting things good? Is posting social media good to keep a journal?
I like the private one, and it's so good. I call it a brain dump, because basically what you do is it's true. You take everything that's going on up here and you just write it or you type it. You get it out of your head, and then you seem to have a relief to be able to sleep. And I actually have an app that I use, and I developed it, and I do a brain dump once in a while. It's just a box, and I just type whatever's in my head, and then I can get it out of my head, and then it's on a record, and later I can go look at it if I think I need to, but it's very private. No one sees it. It's mainly business stuff in that, so it's not so much emotions. But I think it's helpful to have that kind of relief to get that out there. Very helpful.
Is that your term, brain dump?
Yeah, I made that one up because
That's a good one.
I was thinking about just never mind. You know what I mean.
That's good. Like
I actually did it for ADD folks because I have ADD. So I did it for ADD folks because we have so many thoughts going around. We have to get them out, as you know, because we've done a few of these shows. So you just have to write it down and get it out so you can get on with the next task, or it just won't leave you alone.
Do you think the government is doing enough for people who are having mental health issues? For example, their website, I'm guessing.
That's Glenda, I still have trouble with that. I think that there's so much more we could do. And I don't know, maybe because it's not visible or because there's no mechanism. I think we don't evaluate enough if what we're doing is effective. And I think one of the best ways, and I've talked about this over and over again, is to get people to exercise. I know it seems counter to what I do, as a psychologist, but in 2007, the American Psychological Association said that exercise was better than therapy for mild to moderate anxiety and depression, and actually even better in some studies for medication for mild to moderate. So if people were exercising under supervision in many cases, we would have fewer mental health issues. But like I said earlier, it takes energy to exercise. And if you're depressed or anxious, it's very hard to get the energy to do that. But if I had a way, I would try to make that more universal for people so that there's different ways to exercise. We know now from home programs where you can go on and, go online. And by the way, the McMaster study said that you only have to do 10 to 20 minutes a day for mental health. There's some amazing, it's just, if we could just make it accessible to people, help people understand, and because the science is there. You don't have to do any more research on exercise versus therapy versus meds for mild to moderate types of issues. If you can get people, and it has to be done every day. The idea of working out every other day or 3 times a week is not a good idea. You have to do it every morning, 10 to 15 to 30 minutes, depending on your abilities and where you're at. And you're going to start to see a very gradual change in your mental health. And especially with children. We see it with children as well. If children can do more activity, and that's why the bike in the classroom program, we never talked about that. We've put a few of those in the classrooms. I bought a few of them, and they have these really cool little bikes for primary kids. And you put it in the back of the classroom, and anytime a child wants to, they can go back and work on the bike when they get itchy or they just got to get rid of some energy. And the learning outcomes on the science on this is unbelievable. For 2 hours, after 10 minutes, ADHD children, the brain, when they do neuroimaging for 10 minutes after that if they do 10 minutes of exercise for 2 hours, you can't tell the difference between an ADD brain and that of a non-ADD child. Just 10 minutes for 2 hours. So if you have a child do it in the morning, when they come into class, say around 10, when they get a little bit hard to focus, and then again at 1, their academic grades go up, they focus better, their behavior's better, and all the children want to do this. It's very difficult. It's hard too because the culture of the school, a couple of times we gave them away and they became laundry hangers for coats. So just like in our homes, you have to have a buy-in from the people in charge. But I mean, that's the other thing I do for mental health for children. I put a bicycle in every classroom when we go back to school.
Yeah. Do you follow me at all on Facebook there? I'm doing
I'm not real.
my friend's doing a 100. We've put together the 100 kilometers in 25 days walking challenge. Now, he had a bad accident 5 years ago, and he walks with a cane, but he was in a walker. He was in a wheelchair for a period of time. We got out walking, and he's had to overcome a lot of stuff. But walking is very tough for him. Like to walk, we did 6 kilometers today. We did 5 kilometers the day before, and he says the exercise and just moving has made him feel so good. In doing things.
Well, it's mental health, but it's also chronic pain. I mean, we know about chronic pain because we do a lot of that in our clinic. And the problem with chronic pain is if you do too much, you hurt more. And if you don't do enough, you hurt more. So you have to find that sort of sweet spot. And it might be, instead of walking 10 minutes, you walk 3 minutes, 4 minutes later, and then another 3 minutes. And you titrate it just like a medication based on how the person, and it might take months to get up to 5 or 10 minutes of walking with chronic pain. But it's a progression and over time. And the problem is most places don't have the patience to help you with that, right? I mean, if you said, okay, I want to work out for 3 minutes today, they look at you like you're funny, but that's what you have to do to use exercise for mental health and also chronic pain. But back to the question, rather than see someone like myself, I would rather, for universal help, have people access to more exercise programs and support to do them.
How about building up our immune system? Can we do that mentally? I think you've touched on it before about stress and how that affects the immune system.
Well, the whole idea of hypnosis, relaxation, mind-body techniques, being in the moment is very helpful for your immune system and your body. Some of the studies suggest, because stress does the opposite. So it's kind of like the opposite of stress. We don't take enough time to do those kinds of exercises where you have an opportunity. We called it loafing. We were joking, I guess, a couple shows ago. But loafing is really about being in a place where you're forced to do that, where you're forced to watch the water because you don't have your phone on, you're not doing any tasks. You're simply noticing and listening to everything around you. And I try to do that every day, whether it's on the bay or whether it's sitting by the pond or looking at my bees. I generally do it when I watch my honeybees. I just sit there and watch them for about 10 minutes. It's crazy. I sit like 2 feet from them and I just go like this and watch them come in. And I find that therapeutic, and some might find that crazy, but that works for me.
Here's an interesting one. Do you think that trauma can be transferred by suggestion? So COVID is so horrible, it's taken, for example, COVID's so horrible, it's taken away my rights and now life is bad.
That's a multi-layered question, Tracy. I think we do know that trauma if there's previous trauma and we experience another event, it can trigger past traumas. So that's possible with different activities. I think it's with COVID. I mean, if we've had family members injured or passed from this, horrible situations like that, that can cause obviously that kind of thing. But I think the resiliency of us as people is sometimes underestimated. And so before we get into PTSD with many people, we want to look at, is it a normal reaction to what they're facing? So it's normal for us to be concerned if someone's coughing in public right now, right? It would be, even though it may be a simple cold or something, it would be normal to be suddenly on guard and grab your children. And it's kind of a protection mode, which is there. I'm not sure if we want to, I think the biggest problem with COVID right now is the social isolation, not COVID. I think what it's done to families and the mental health side. And I still think it's a serious issue because it spreads easily and it's killed so many seniors. But I'm talking about currently for most people, I think it's the isolation that's caused the most impact.
When this is all over and people go back, and are allowed to visit, what is that transition going to be like the day of when they're finally said you can go even to 10 people?
We're going to have a lot of fun, Ben. we're going to eat a lot of bad food and probably chicken wings a lot and pizza because you keep putting them on the show. I think there's going to be a pent up, really appreciation, hopefully, and it never goes away, of some of the relationships we do have, right? I mean, often we take so many things for granted. The frustrating part is when people say this will never be over. Well, I don't believe that. All these things eventually are over. And I just hope we don't forget some of the lessons we've learned from this. Some of the important things we learn about, how we structure our life, what we think about. And I still think about the Etch-a-Sketch board where you shake it and you start over. And in many ways, that's become an opportunity for us to relook at how we interact with our children, how we interact with our family, how important it is to be with people that perhaps we used to, we'd be on the phone while we're how many times you've been in a restaurant, you see a couple together and he's on his phone and he's on his phone, or she and she, or he, whatever. They're not really looking at each other, not paying any attention to each other. They're together, but they're not together.
True. With kids not being able to do much and summer coming, how important is it to start getting creative, or government or people in general, to do something with their kids or with groups of kids? Now that soccer's taken away, pools are taken away, parks are taken away, baseball, everything's taken away. What steps can we do to get kids active and moving and doing something somewhat normal? Is that?
Well, I think regardless of COVID or not, I think every child should be on some kind of exercise program. I think you have to have, because we don't have those same opportunities anymore. So if you have a child in your house and you have access to any equipment in your home, and you have to model it as a parent, you can't ask your children to do it and sit in a chair and watch them. You have to do it with them. And I know you're very active with your children, and that's outstanding. When I see that, I'm thinking that's amazing that your kids are exposed to soccer and exercise and cross country and all those things. And even if you're only going to do it for 5, 10, or 15 minutes a day, maybe your child doesn't really want to do a lot of sports or whatever, but get them involved with just the physical aspect of increasing their heart rate, because it's going to help them mentally, physically, self-esteem, all of that, and work with them where they're at and do it with them. Beyond that, I would teach them a new skill. So if your child has never hit a golf ball, I would teach them how to hit a golf ball. Start from like that Etch-a-Sketch. Start a sport they have no reference point to, whatever it may be. I don't know what that could be for your or other children, but there's probably something they haven't tried yet. I would try something new with them.
What does trying to learn a new language do? Is that something very cool?
Well, if you're old like me, it's frustrating. If you're young, it comes very easily. So depending on the age, the best time to learn, we know, is when children are very young. But I'm not familiar with the software. Have you tried some of the learning software we keep seeing? We're inundated with ads. Does it work, Ben? Some of this software where it teaches you how to speak languages?
I've tried a couple things to learn a little bit of stuff, and as I'm trying to find the best one, and they're all difficult to me.
We're older, right?
That's probably it. But I haven't found anything that, like, I want to learn by tomorrow, and maybe that my expectations are low. But I wanted something easier. But I guess there is no easy way to learn a new language. I don't know.
Well, I think the easiest is to be immersed in it, to be in a country where you have to speak it to survive. But other than that, at home, I would cook the foods of a country. I would look at culture. I would look at all the aspects of it to bring, and then do it in a fun way. I mean, we all go back to I'm not sure what your French classes were, but mine were very rote memory. I don't have a lot of fond memories of French class. And I just didn't. But when I was suddenly exposed, I knew some Czech growing up, and I didn't know any German, but I spent a little time in Europe with my family for 6 weeks once, and I had to learn the language to order stuff. And you learn things. When I was younger, I was a kid, but you learn things, right? So if you can incorporate that with your children, appreciate the culture, and it would be very helpful to learn different foods, different rituals or routines, whether it be religious holidays or, what do people eat after fasting for Ramadan? What is the food? I stumbled into a school in London, a Muslim school. I was doing a consult with a family, and it happened to be the day after they stopped fasting. And they said, you got to come down to the gym and check out the food. So I went in there. You wouldn't believe the amazing food that I've never seen or had since. And it would be great to learn how to cook that. What kind of food do people? Because we sort of sometimes have diets and then encourage that to the language. I got on the food again. It's the pizza and wings, Ben. Sorry.
Always
Pizza and
on
wings.
food. Mark has took up gardening for the first time during this pandemic. It sucks, but I tried, he says. Gardening's good. Then you got Craig Water.
Mark, grow rhubarb.
Grow rhubarb.
Well, because rhubarb, you plant it and it lasts for 30 years and you don't have to touch it.
Really?
It's a great, you grow some rhubarb and it'll last you 20 years anyway. You don't have to touch it.
And we got Craig Waters, a little bit of a joke probably. I believe your heart only has so many beats. So why would you want to increase it?
Didn't Donald Trump say that he doesn't exercise because he only has so many steps or something? Some crazy idea. I think your buddy said that. Ben, sorry.
My buddy.
Sorry, I think he said that.
Well, when he was doing the rallies, I believe he called that exercise. He said, doing an hour of exercise. And then he goes.
But Craig, there is science on heart rate variability, putting your heart rate to certain points for different benefits. So let me quickly, the science on brain health is you have to have brief periods of high intensity. Just as work as hard as you can for even as little as 20 seconds. Don't do this. I'm just telling you why heart rate matters. And then for other diseases, there's done science on prostate cancer. You have to, as a man, you have to hit 95% heart rate max for a period of time to help counteract what happens with prostate cancer. So there's different, just like medication, there's different prescriptions for exercise. Often them are based on intensity, depending on the health condition you're trying to alleviate. So a slow walk is good for certain things, but it doesn't do a lot for your brain health. You feel better because you're out and you're about, but the blood rush to your brain comes when you have to hit a little bit higher moderate intensity. So that's why, working hard on a bike for 10, 20, 30 seconds for a child causes an incredible push of blood to the brain, and it sort of helps your hippocampus create more brain cells. And when you exercise, you actually create every day 3 times the brain cells than if you don't exercise. Now, you're probably young, Craig, but when you're my age, that's a very important thing to have little extra brain happening up there. So depending on the issue, that's why that does matter. So
if I'm working at high intensity training, I'm getting the heart rate really high up there to the 95% tile there. My brain will get smarter.
They started these studies with rats and they ended up with seniors, and they've gone through this. This is science. I'm not making this up. So you don't have to hit, when you talk that high intensity stuff, we're talking you're walking and then you go as hard as you can for 20 seconds. And we call them yo-yos. We go all the way up to 5 minutes, depending on your condition and how you've worked up to it and why you're exercising. But if you do 3 sets of a minute or 2 of as hard as you can, if you can tolerate it, you don't want to do this without talking to someone. You don't want to get hurt. Your brain gets a rush of blood, which causes the hippocampus to create more brain cells, right? And then when you create those brain cells, they have 2 weeks to become part of your neurology, and then they die. But these brain cells that float around appear to go to places that are needed. We see this in restorative neurogenesis for brain injury. For some reason, our brain knows, our body knows where in our brain these new cells should go to help us think better. And we see this with people who have significant neurological issues because of say a car accident or an injury, who can start to do things neurologically they shouldn't be able to do, but because they're doing this kind of work, their brain starts to make new connections. So neuroregenesis, or the brain, sorry through all that, I just love this stuff because it's just great stuff, starts to regenerate. And the answer to your question, Ben, is yes.
That's really cool. It's
sorry.
kind of Duddy there says, guess we're jogging now. Now, we just started that 100-kilometer challenge, him and I, and there's other people out joining us for that. So I guess we're jogging now. Might be pretty tough, but we might be able to get to that point. That's very interesting. I love what some of those comments you just made, Dr. Svec. That was very interesting. Keeping the kids busy is key. Keep them busy and keeps you sane. Whether it's a sport, art, ask the kids. Find what interests them and run with it. Go for a walk. Find a new path. Do a scavenger hunt. That's fun at any age. Our family is looking. Oh, I think I'm losing you there. I think the internet might have gone out there again, Henry. Can you hear me? Okay. I think we just lost him, but that is the hour that we have done again today. Hey guys, thank you for watching. Now, a couple things here before next week. Make sure to comment below at any point, and you could win a pound of wings and a large pizza from Pizza Tonight. Or not from Konstantinos Pizzeria and Wings. I still can't hear you, Henry. Hey, guys. Nah, I think we're losing you. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you again next week and talk to you soon.